What's the hardest season you've been through? This question. Wow. I met my husband when I went on for my sister's. If money wasn't a factor, how would you spend your time? You can already imagine. What would you tell your younger self? What would I tell my younger self? Hi, I'm Tommy Daniels. Thank you so much for stopping by. I film about faith, relationships, lifestyle, property, travel, everything. I've got it. So welcome to your one-stop shop for everything that you want. Interestingly enough, today's video is going to be a mishmash of all of those topics. So I'm going to be answering your most asked questions, from property to family to travel to faith to relationship, everything in this video. So stay tuned and enjoy. Take it away. Okay, I'm gonna get right straight into it. So first question, I've got my questions on my iPad here, so I'm gonna look down at the questions. All right, first question: how did you become a Christian? How did I become a Christian? I've actually done a video about this. I've shared my salvation story, and I'll link that. So I'm gonna link all of those things. However, short version is I grew up in a Christian home. I was born into a Christian family, grew up in a Christian home. However, my personal relationship and walk with God really started when I was 18 years old, when I was 19 years old. And this was when I had a personal encounter with God for the very first time, where I started speaking in tongues, and that led to me understanding the Bible. So I started reading the Bible, understanding it, not just like trying to tick a box. And then shortly after, in that same period, I had my very first encounter with hearing God, or God speaking to me. And so yeah, that was how, and it was just all it started on my sofa in my sister's living room in Essex at the time, and it was around 1 a.m. But yeah, that's the short answer how I became a Christian. Second question is, how did you meet your husband? Again, I have actually done a video about this, but I met my husband when I went on for my sister's wedding. I've got 4 sisters, so I was attending one of them's wedding. I traveled to Nigeria to attend a wedding, and my husband was unofficially on the bridal train, or it was unofficially. So my husband, my sister, my brother-in-law, and another of my brother, basically 2 of my sisters and 2 of my brother-in-laws were all part of the same youth fellowship, which also I wouldn't say I was part of, but I attended youth camps before I relocated to the UK, a couple of them, before I relocated to the UK. So my husband was part of that fellowship, and as I guess they had a relationship from there, or particularly maybe more so with my now brother-in-law, Odi, and then so he was kind of unofficially part of the bridal train. So I met him when I went for the wedding, but we didn't talk for a year. We just followed each other on Instagram. That's it. We didn't really talk. He noticed me though, but we didn't talk much. And then fast forward to the next year, I went to Nigeria again on holiday. And to be honest, I think you should watch the video because I really go into detail. I believe that trip to Nigeria was definitely God ordained. At the time, I didn't know it. I just thought I was just going to have fun. So I'll definitely link that here as well. So make sure you check it out. Okay. How do you afford to travel so much? This is a very good question because I also need to know the answer. How do I afford to travel so much? So the truth is, we love to travel. I think travel is one of those things that I didn't know I love to do until I started doing it, and I had the opportunity to do it. And so the more I did it, the more I realized that I loved it. And even now, I think it was 2 days ago. So I remember messaging my sisters on our group chat, and I was like, I just love traveling so much. I love holidays. So to be honest, if I'm not on a trip, I am either booking a trip, watching videos of people on a trip, rewatching my own travel vlogs. So honestly, when I do these vlogs, I low-key do them for me as well. It's not just for entertainment. So I enjoy looking back. Recently I've been watching my New York vlog. I love traveling, but how do I afford? I don't know. I feel it's the same way that most people, things that you like to do, you somehow are able to make space for it. And so where for some people maybe they love fashion and say why you prioritize like having a new like Chanel bag or Prada bag, I don't really have any of those, and I'll rather put that money towards travel. I mean, I would like them, please don't get me wrong, I would like them, but again, it's not my priority. It's not something that I look like I'm so excited about. Versus like trips and like the flight and the holiday and the location. I'm not one of those people that say the location no, the location matters, the hotel matters. Like I want it to be luxury all the way if possible. But yeah, I think I just prioritize it. We prioritize it, myself and Shay. Shay is my husband, in case you don't know, and we travel together as well. So we prioritize it. So I guess where other things may suffer sometimes, we're happy to sort of put the money towards travel and enjoy those experiences. But also I think definitely our being property developers, that definitely affords us the opportunity as well to travel opportunity and like provides like some of the resources, like the financial resources to travel as well. So yeah, we prioritize it and we make space for it. I think that's the short answer. How did you get started in property? Good question as well. Again, we bought our first, I think, okay, going back a bit, before I even got married, my sisters were already in property, as well as, you know, having like, you know, their day jobs. However, one of them had already gone full time, like, you know, years before that. And so even when we bought our first property, it was a rundown property, and this we bought because, you know, we had the knowledge around us in terms of like buying rundown properties is sort of the way to go, and you can quickly add value to the property and add equity to the property, or increase the value of the property by doing that. So even when we bought our first property, it was run down, but we weren't thinking rent or so much about or so much of that at that time. However, like 3 years after, I think about 3 or 4 years after we bought our first property, was when we bought our very first investment property. And I think at that point, I don't remember if like myself and Shay sat down and said, okay, now we're going into property. But I just remember that, you know, we decided to sign up for my sister's mastermind. So it was like a 6 months group mastermind training session. And even though, as I said, some of my other sisters had already been in property, and I had property knowledge around me, until we actually put ourselves under the tutelage, and we're going week after week, attending, it was online, attending the masterclass or the mastermind sessions. We really didn't start like that was what basically kick-started everything. And as I said, we were on our second home at the time, and so we were already able to rent out the first, but it was still quote unquote accidental landlord. But because both properties that we had bought we were run down, we're able to pull out equity from it. So that was where we got our first capital actually to buy the first investment property. So I would say I started because my sisters were in it, but then it became a career, it became a job, because myself and Shay intentionally decided to go into it, and we intentionally decided to put ourselves under tutelage. So yes. What's something people assume about you that isn't true? I think two things come to mind here. One is that I don't know if people assume this about me, but I get the feeling that maybe people that know me sometimes think I'm extroverted, but I don't think I am. And actually, I was thinking about this just now. I had a call recently, well, when I say recently, not too long ago. And honestly, I feel like it stressed me out a little bit, because I thought, oh, I don't want to be on the phone. And this is someone I like talking to. And I was still like, oh, I just want to be by myself. And it's not unusual that even when I was growing up, like my mom, like, you know, would say it all the time, like when people are around, and I would just kind of find a way to like sneak up to my room. So I'm a bit like, but then again, like, cause I'm funny and, you know, easygoing, in settings that I'm familiar with, like you would remember me, right? But I think that I don't know, maybe can I say I'm an ambivert? Maybe so maybe I kind of like to do that, but I also like need to sort of go back and recharge. I remember like a week ago, so we had a reunion of that same youth group I was talking about, where I met my husband, or that my sisters were part of, and I met my husband, or my husband was part of, or is part of, and we had a reunion. And I remember, like, as we were on our way there, driving there, it was a staycation, as we're driving there, and I was thinking, like, you know, I have to go be social now. And so the fact that I'm having to think about it and feel this way about it, I feel like so I'm not as extroverted. And the second thing is that people assume that we have a lot of money. Honestly, sometimes when I book the trips, because I mostly like do the bookings, but when I book it, sometimes I feel like people just would not understand that we just love to do this and prioritize this. It doesn't mean like all of the money is like sitting in my bank account. And again, I think by nature of the nature of our jobs or our careers as property developers means that it's capital intensive. If you don't know, like to buy it, to do the renovations, and because we're constantly doing that, it means that a lot of times our money like is always tied up in a deal, almost always tied up in a deal. So we don't necessarily have cash lying around. We may have like the asset and all of that. So yeah, people probably just see the lifestyle and think, oh, it's just bowling, you just, you live in this nice house, you travel all the time. But yeah, I don't know if that's if the cash marries what people think, but yeah. What's the hardest season you've been through? This question, wow. Should I say it's still a season I'm in? It's a season that has been a long time, and by God's grace, we're at the tail end of it, or in fact I prophesy that I'm at the end of it and we've come out of it victoriously, amen. But it's definitely something I'm going to share in detail. I've actually written a book about it. That's what I wrote. I think I mentioned writing a book earlier this year when I was talking about like leaving my 9 to 5 and what I'm going, or leaving my 6-figure job. I may link the video here. But yes, I'm definitely going to be going into details about the season. I've written about it. You will hear more about it. But yeah, it's been an interesting one. Okay, we're getting close to the end. Let me rush through the rest. What's the biggest lesson God has taught you recently? Very good question. The biggest lesson God has taught me recently is to obey His voice. And even when not just obey, is to trust in His promises. Yes, I think that's the trust in His promises, which also involves obedience. And so even when everything right now or everything may look contrary to that, I'm just having His word to hold on to, and I'm just saying, God, you honor your word above your name. You cannot lie. Literally, I still think I was still saying that to myself. God, you cannot lie. You cannot lie. You cannot lie. So this may look like what I'm looking at right now, but you cannot lie. And so it's the biggest lesson God is teaching me right now in this season is to just trust Him. And I'm trusting Him, and I know that He cannot fail. His word is true. And so if one of His word, but God cannot lie. So that's the biggest lesson, to trust Him and to have faith in Him and His word. What would you tell your younger self? What would I tell my younger self? So you may have heard me say this in the past, but I used to think I had a silent fear of feeling like I would not be successful. I'm the last of 5 girls, and I kind of felt like, my sisters were doing quite well. And so sometimes in the past also, at times in the past, I kind of just had this silent fear of, what if I don't do as well as they've done? But I'm telling my younger self that you have nothing to worry about. God's got you. God's got you. So yeah, I'll tell my younger self that you will be successful. You will have an amazing marriage. Well, it wasn't so much about marriage. It was just like successful in life. And so yeah, I'll tell my younger self that I'll be successful. If money wasn't a factor, how would you spend your time? You can already imagine. I will be out of the country all the time. Literally all the time. I love travel. I literally had to have not a conversation. I had to tell someone recently and just say, you know what? Myself and Shay have come to the conclusion that travel is always going to be part of our lives. And to be honest, this question is not so much about like if money wasn't a factor. It's also if I didn't have some of the responsibilities that I had, I definitely will be traveling a lot more. Like I would, honestly, you will be looking for me in the UK, but I will be traveling a lot more than I already do. I'll probably stay longer in some locations. I will definitely, there's so many places I want to, I just have an endless list of places that I want to visit, and things always are interesting to me. So if money was even a factor, if the responsibilities I have, I didn't have them, I would spend my time doing a lot more travel. Final question, and we'll bring this to a close. What are your goals for the future? My goals for the future is to be successful and to be right where God wants me. Also with property is to really expand the team, and kind of leverage more people's time, which we're already starting to do. Definitely get into property development properly. We want to do the, I mean, in the past all we've done is like buy rundown properties and then do the renos. We actually want to do ground up development. We want to build blocks of flats. So those are definitely goals that we want to achieve. Grow our family. I think what else am I missing? I'm probably missing some things, but every year myself and Shay, we try to sit down and write our goals and do all of that. But I'm gonna bring this video to a close. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've gotten to know me more. If you have any questions or you found anything interesting that I said, leave it in the comment section. I'll be interested to know what you think, and I'll also definitely try to link those videos that I spoke about already. But I'm Tommy Daniels. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.